Welcome to the Full Moon Film Buff, episode 147. We're going to discuss Haunted Honeymoon from 1986. I rented this from Amazon Prime, and I had not seen this before. As always, we start with the prominent crew and cast. You can also find links to a more complete credit list in the show notes. The film was directed by Gene Wilder. It was written by Gene Wilder and Terrence Marsh. I am not sure who did the effects work. Gene Wilder began his career on stage before making his film debut in 1967's Bonnie and Clyde. His breakthrough came after meeting director Mel Brooks through Brooks's wife, Anne Bancroft, who was Wilder's castmate in a play. This connection led to his role Leo Bloom in The Producers in 1967, earning him an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor. Wilder's collaboration with Brooks produced two of his most iconic films in 1974, Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein. He co-wrote Young Frankenstein with Brooks, receiving an Oscar nomination for Best Adapted Screenplay. However, his most enduring role was as the eccentric chocolatier in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory in 1971, a performance that was at terms whimsical, mysterious, and slightly menacing, becoming his signature and leaving an indelible mark on popular culture. The 70s and early 80s marked the pinnacle of Wilder's career. His celebrated partnership with Richard Pryor began with Silver Streak in 1976 and continued with Stir Crazy in 1980, forming one of Hollywood's most beloved interracial comedy duos. In 1981, Wilder met Gilda Radner on the set of Hanky Panky. They married in 1984, but their relationship ended tragically when she died from ovarian cancer in 1989, the same disease that had claimed his mother decades earlier. Following this loss, Wilder became a passionate advocate for cancer awareness, founding Gilda's Club for people living with cancer. His screen appearances became increasingly rare in later years. He wrote several novels and a memoir titled Kiss Me Like a Stranger, My Search for Love and Art. His final acting role was a guest appearance on Will and Grace in 2002, for which he earned an Emmy Award. Wilder chose not to disclose his Alzheimer's disease diagnosis, not wanting to sadden young fans who knew him as Willy Wonka. He died on August 29, 2016, at the age of 83 from complications of the disease. Terrence Marsh began his career in the film industry during the 50s, working as a draughtsman at Pinewood Studios. Marsh's breakthrough came when he served as art director on David Lean's epic masterpiece, Dr. Zhivago, in 1965, for which he won his first Academy Award. He secured his second Oscar for his art direction on Oliver in 1968, establishing himself as one of the industry's premier visual craftsmen. In the 1970s, Marsh relocated to Hollywood. His versatility was evident in his work across various genres, from his claustrophobic submarine in The Hunt for Red October from 1990 to the prison environments of The Shawshank Redemption in 1994 and The Green Mile in 1999. The cast includes Gene Wilder as Larry Abbott, Gilda Radner as Vicky Pearl, Dom DeLuise as Aunt Kate, Jonathan Pryce as Charles, Eve Ferret as Sylvia, Brian Pringle as Pfister, Anne Way as Rachel, Peter Vaughn as Francis Abbott Sr., Roger Aston Griffiths as Francis Jr., Paul L. Smith as Dr. Paul Abbott, Julianne Griffin as Nora, Jim Carter as Montego, Joe Ross as Susan, Will Kenton as the werewolf, and Scampy as Toby the dog. As a child, Gilda struggled with her weight and faced bullying, experiences that informed her comedy. She developed her sense of humor partly as a defense mechanism and a way to gain acceptance. Radner's career took shape during the early 70s when she joined the Toronto production of Godspell. She became a member of the comedy troupe The Second City. In 1975, she was the first performer cast in what would become Saturday Night Live. Radner emerged as one of the show's brightest stars during her 5-year tenure from 1975 to 1980. Her performances earned her an Emmy Award in 1978. Beyond SNL, Radner took her talents to Broadway with her one-woman show Gilda Radner, live from New York in 1979. We've already discussed her relationship with Gene Wilder. In 1986, she was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. She underwent surgery and chemotherapy and briefly entered remission. During this time, she wrote her memoir, It's Always Something, published posthumously in 1989, chronicling her cancer battle with characteristic humor and honesty. She emphasized the importance of family cancer history awareness. Her grandmother, aunt, and cousin had all died of ovarian cancer, and the need to advocate for oneself in the healthcare system. Radner died in 1989 at the age of 42. Dominic DeLuise graduated from Manhattan's High School of Performing Arts. He quickly became a regular presence on variety and talk shows, including multiple appearances on The Dean Martin Show. His film career gained momentum in the 70s and 80s when he became a regular collaborator with Mel Brooks, appearing in several of the director's films, including Blazing Saddles, Silent Movie, History of the World, Part 1, and Spaceballs. Perhaps even more notable was his friendship and professional partnership with Burt Reynolds, with whom he appeared in films like The Cannonball Run, Smokey and the Bandit, and The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. Their natural camaraderie and improvisational style resulted in memorable comic moments. DeLuise lent his distinctive voice to numerous animated features, most notably as Tiger in the An American Tail series and Itchy Itchford in All Dogs Go to Heaven. Beyond acting, DeLuise was an accomplished chef and author of several cookbooks. Jonathan Pryce's theatrical career blossomed in the 70s with the Liverpool Everyman Theatre. His breakthrough came in 1976 when he won his first Tony Award for Best Actor for his performance in Comedians. This was followed by another career-defining role as Hamlet with the Royal Court Theatre. Pryce's most celebrated stage performance came in 1989 when he starred as the engineer in Miss Saigon, winning both Tony and Olivier Awards. Early notable film appearances included Terry Gilliam's Brazil in 1985. He appeared as Bond villain Elliot Carver in Tomorrow Never Dies in 1997, and as Governor Weatherby Swan in the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. His later career has been marked by increasingly prestigious roles. He portrayed Pope Francis in The Two Popes in 2019, earning an Academy Award nomination. On television, he gained renewed prominence as the High Sparrow in Game of Thrones and as Sir Stuart Strange in Taboo. Pryce's work in The Crown, where he portrayed Prince Philip in the final seasons. We've actually seen Eve Ferret before when she guest starred on She-Wolf of London in 1990. Brian Pringle specialized in character roles, often portraying working class or authority figures. His debut occurred in the late 50s, and he went on to appear in 200 films and TV shows throughout the 90s. Notable film appearances included Saturday Night and Sunday Morning in 1960 and Brazil in 1985. Anne Way was known for her thin, angular appearance and expressive face, which made her ideally suited for playing stern, aristocratic, or quirky elderly women. She was a familiar presence in British cinema and television from the 60s through the early 90s. Her film credits include a notable appearance in Brazil in 1985. On television, she appeared in popular series including Fawlty Towers. Peter Vaughan's career spanned more than 75 years across stage, film, and television, with over 200 film and TV credits. Vaughan served in World War II before pursuing acting in the late 40s. His film work included memorable performances in Straw Dogs in 1971, Time Bandits in 1981, The Remains of the Day in 1993, and The Crucible in 1996. On television, he gained recognition for his portrayal of the villainous Harry Grout in the sitcom Porridge. Other notable television work included the BBC adaptation of Bleak House and the series Our Friends in the North. His final role was Master Aemon Targaryen in Game of Thrones, a part he played into his 90s, despite being partially blind at the time. Roger Aston Griffiths built an impressive career spanning film, television, and theater since the early 80s. He is perhaps best known to contemporary audiences for his role as Mace Tyrell in Game of Thrones. He has collaborated with several renowned directors, appearing in Terry Gilliam's Brazil, Roman Polanski's Pirates, and Martin Scorsese's Gangs of New York. He also appeared in period pieces such as Young Sherlock Holmes, The Portrait of a Lady, and Grace of Monaco. Beyond acting, Ashton Griffiths is accomplished behind the camera as a director and writer. Adding to his creative credentials, he holds a PhD in creative writing. Paul Smith was instantly recognizable for his towering stature, large frame, and bushy beard. No wonder I liked him. Smith's breakthrough role came in 1980 when he portrayed Bluto in the film adaptation of Popeye. Fantasy and adventure films became a specialty for Smith, with roles in Dune in 1984, Red Sonja in 1985, and Gore in 1987. On television, Smith made appearances in popular series including Wonder Woman. While Julianne Griffin was an actress, writer, and television producer, her most notable achievement came in 1964 when she helped create the iconic game show Jeopardy! Jim Carter achieved global recognition for his portrayal of Mr. Carson, the dignified butler in the acclaimed period drama Downton Abbey, on television and film. This performance earned him 4 Emmy Award nominations for Outstanding Supporting Actor. Before this, Carter built an impressive career spanning over 4 decades across television, film, and theater. He is married to actress Imelda Staunton, creating one of Britain's most talented acting couples. Jode Ross had a shorter 2-decade-long career. I absolutely recommend this film. That said, it will appeal primarily to fans of Gene Wilder and Gilda Radner, or those who enjoy campy comedy horror blends from the 80s, it doesn't reach the comedic heights of Wilder's collaborations with Mel Brooks, but it does have a certain charm with its blend of old radio drama nostalgia and haunted house tropes. The film received mixed reviews upon release and underperformed at the box office, but it has developed something of a well-deserved cult following over the years. This film was conceived as a tribute to the classic old dark house comedy horror films popular in the 30s and 40s. Gene Wilder specifically cited The Cat and the Canary from 1939, starring Bob Hope, as a major influence. The film holds a bittersweet place in cinema history, as it was Gilda Radner's final film appearance before her death from ovarian cancer in 1989. She and Wilder had married in 1984, and this was their third and final film together after Hanky Panky in 1982, where they met, and The Woman in Red in 1984. So let's review the synopsis. An actor dressed as a woman with a knife protruding from his back collapses on the windowsill of a Gothic mansion. The wind blows the man's wig off, and a werewolf in the bushes grabs it. On a radio set, voice actors Larry Abbott and Vicki Pearl respectively perform the roles of Freddie and Lady Wolfington in the live radio play Haunted Honeymoon. During a commercial break, reporters interview them about their upcoming marriage. Larry and Vicki are charming and clearly in love. Just before the play resumes, the sound effects guy, Eddie, demonstrates storm sounds. Upon hearing the effects, Larry's eyes become unfocused. He asks if his tie is straight. On the show, Lady Wolfington reveals her fear that Freddie is a werewolf to Detective Karp at Scotland Yard. Karp says Freddie stumbling over words beginning with the letter W is a clue to his condition. As storm sound effects begin, Larry giggles nervously and stumbles over the words, especially Wolfington Castle. Larry's awkward performance bothers Mr. Tarlow, the show's sponsor. Larry's uncle, psychiatrist Dr. Paul Abbott, explains that his nephew's recent engagement has cracked his psyche. Abbott insists he can cure Larry by scaring him to death at his wedding. Sounds like a really severe cure. He says it is better if Vicki is unaware of the plan, and the radio executives agree. On the way to the estate, Vicki helps Larry manage his fears. He keeps asking if his tie is straight. At the mansion, Aunt Kate revises her will, making Larry the sole beneficiary as she suspects someone wants to kill her. She swears her brother and attorney Francis to secret. If Larry dies first, Kate's fortune will be divided equally among her remaining relatives. Someone is eavesdropping. Larry and Vicki arrive in the pouring rain. Pfister, the imposing butler, does not recognize Larry, even though Larry spent his childhood at this very mansion. Pfister shows them to their rooms, drawing attention to a rare vase. Later, Pfister's wife Rachel answers the door and is startled by a magician named Montego. As his eyes glow, Rachel is no longer rattled and welcomes him. He is Susan Abbott's husband, and she will arrive shortly by train. Larry settles Vicki in her bedroom, and someone watches through the windows. Pfister warmly greets Larry, with no memory of meeting Larry and Vicki earlier. Cousin Charles, son of Dr. Abbott, arrives with his girlfriend, Sylvia Beach. Larry settles into his childhood bedroom. Dr. Abbott arrives with his wife Nora and nods knowingly at Pfister, who nods back. Larry opens a drawer and a black cobra slithers out. He flees, but the bedroom door is locked. Vicki and Francis respond to Larry's screams to find him sitting atop a moose head mounted to the wall. Larry tells them to call the zoo to remove the deadly snake. However, Francis only finds a stuffed toy in the drawer. Outside, the werewolf climbs a rain pipe. In their room, Sylvia insists that Charles marry her. He feels that he's too poor to get married, but she gives him an ultimatum. She won't wait forever. Aunt Kate's dog, Toby, growls at Susan Abbott when she arrives. In a shocking display, Sylvia smothers Larry with kisses in the hallway. Larry pretends that Rachel was the one who kissed him when Vicki sees his face covered in lipstick. We discover Montego loses a lot of money gambling. While the family shares a drink, Dr. Abbott and Francis scheme together. Sylvia confesses to being a longtime fan of Montego. Vicki recognizes Sylvia's lipstick and warns her to stay away from Larry. Turns out Larry used to date Sylvia. Charles accuses Larry of flirting with Sylvia, but Larry protests that he's about to be married and introduces Vicki. Aunt Kate appears on the staircase and announces that her house is cursed. She slides down the banister. Aunt Kate likes Vicki. At dinner, Aunt Kate tells her guests that one of her family members is a werewolf. Many years ago, Kate's brother John was bitten and transformed into a werewolf. His affliction was passed on to a descendant in this room. The moon is full tonight. Toby barks as the werewolf sneaks into the basement through a hidden passage. I thought he was in the room upstairs. In the parlor, Vicky joins Aunt Kate in singing Balling the Jack, accompanied on piano by Charles. Larry sees Montego's glowing eyes and gets nervous. Everyone enjoys the performance, but Aunt Kate wants to know why Francis Jr. is not there, and mentions one of her dresses is missing. Francis explains his son does a wicked impression of Kate and borrows her dresses for maximum effect. Aunt Kate implies he's really a crossdresser. In the basement, the werewolf cuts the power. Dr. Abbott has collaborated with the rest of the family. Pfister leads the guests to their rooms by candlelight. Sylvia keeps hitting on Larry, and Vicky is having none of it. Down in the wine cellar, the werewolf demands money from one of the guests and is told he will be paid when the job is done. When the werewolf refuses to kill Larry and threatens to expose the guest's plot, he is killed instead. Turns out he was just a guy wearing a very effective mask. Upstairs, a guest sneaks into Vicky's room and asks her for help. Larry discovers Francis Jr.'s dead body is in his bed. His jump scare spares him from being stabbed. However, when he attempts to show Pfister the corpse, the body is missing. We see the body is being dragged into the cellar. Larry returns to bed and is soon terrified by the sight of a ghoul walking down the wall and peering at him. He touches the deformed apparition, screams, and runs to the door, which opens onto a brick wall. Meanwhile, the harpsichord in his room spontaneously plays Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Wolf? Vicky, wearing her wedding dress, floats outside Larry's window, calling his name. His room door spontaneously opens, and ghostly candles light his way. He follows Vicky's apparition through a mirror and ends up outside the mansion. When he kneels to retrieve her fallen veil, a hand bursts from the dirt and grabs him by the throat. He breaks free and screams. 2 nearby police deputies notice electrical disturbances at the Abbott estate and come to investigate. Larry is locked out of the house, so he enters through the basement. There, he finds Francis Jr.'s dead body. Pfister sees them and accuses Larry of being a werewolf and committing murder. And he attempts to strangle Larry, who knocks the butler unconscious with a chunk of wood. The deputies, who have come to investigate, hear the scream and go downstairs. Larry claims to be rehearsing his lines. As the deputies search the mansion, a werewolf attacks Larry with a dagger, but he escapes upstairs. The werewolf hears Toby barking and escapes through the secret passageway. Pfister wakes in time to see the werewolf. Larry searches all the bedrooms looking for Vicky in vain. Outside, Vicky dangles suspended in the air from a harness controlled by Charles as part of Abbott's fright cure. She demands to be lowered to use the nearest bathroom. In Montego's room, Larry finds the real snake and a mask of the ghoul. He uncovers all of the special effects used to frighten him. Larry sees Pfister about to bury Francis Jr. and the murdered werewolf when the deputies arrive. Larry dances with Francis Jr.'s corpse, a la Weekend at Bernie, to avoid detection. Pfister plays a concertina as the other corpse rests on his shoulder without its werewolf mask. Larry gives a deputy his autograph, and the officers leave. As Pfister and Larry hide the corpses, someone wearing a werewolf mask knocks them unconscious with a shovel. Aunt Kate witnesses this. Larry is tossed into a coffin and revives just in time to be buried alive. Dr. Abbott informs Francis that his son is dead. Vicky demands to know where Larry is. Charles offers to call the police, and the rest of the guests fan out to search. The men search the grounds while the women search the house. Aunt Kate stays behind to guard the unconscious Pfister. Toby paws the ground where Larry is buried. Larry has a traumatic memory of his mother being struck by lightning at her second marriage. This ultimately explains his obsession with straight ties and his fear of storms and marriage. Aunt Kate digs Larry up. Inside, Vicky listens to Charles argue with the police and discovers that the electricity has been cut, so no phone call. When Charles realizes that Vicky is onto his ruse, he pulls a leather glove out of his pocket and remarks that Larry is not the only actor in the family. Charles attempts to strangle Vicky, but Larry catches up with them. He and Charles fight until he is knocked to the ground. Charles proclaims that he is better looking and smarter than his cousin and will soon become a lot richer. As Charles lifts a large, priceless vase, previously mentioned, to strike Larry, Aunt Kate shoots him dead with a rifle. Larry and Vicky's wedding takes place without a hitch. Back at the radio station, the radio play for this entire story, Haunted Honeymoon, ends, revealed to be Larry's imagination. The male actor playing Aunt Kate delivers the final monologue. Larry and Vicky dash off for their real wedding as a werewolf in a raincoat watches them drive away and muses that it would be wrong to assume a happy ending to the tale. While Werewolves are a central motif in Haunted Honeymoon. The film doesn't feature any on-screen transformations. So I guess unless you count the instant where the intruder's mask is removed after his death, the werewolf elements are used as plot devices and atmospheric touches rather than showcasing traditional werewolf transformation sequences that we typically analyze in this show. The werewolf costuming is fairly simple by 80s standards, essentially just featuring facial hair, fangs, and furry claws. This makes sense on multiple levels. In universe, these are special effects designed to scare Larry. In reality, they are still just special effects deployed to scare the audience. The film also adopts a minimalist approach to werewolf mythology, utilizing it as a backdrop for comedy rather than a serious exploration of lycanthropic lore. The werewolf element is played for laughs, with the protagonist's fear of becoming one manifesting in his anxiety attack during radio broadcasts. The film effectively utilizes the familial curse aspect of werewolf mythology, suggesting that Aunt Kate's brother John was the first bitten and that the curse was passed down to a descendant, in line with the traditional idea that lycanthropy can be hereditary. It most reminded me of The Undying Monster from 1942. Unlike many werewolf films, there's no mention of silver bullets, full moons triggering transformations, or many other common werewolf tropes, which makes this an interesting outlier in our series. So let's talk about comedy as a defense mechanism. Comedy can serve as more than entertainment. It can function as a sophisticated psychological defense mechanism. Larry Abbott exemplifies this defensive function in its most literal form. As a radio performer, Larry experiences panic attacks during performances as his wedding approaches. His professional identity revolves around transforming fear into entertainment, creating safe spaces where audiences can experience that fear without genuine threat. This mirrors Larry's own attempts to navigate anxiety using nervous jokes and physical comedy as shields against deeper psychological turmoil about his impending marriage. On a meta level, Haunted Honeymoon itself employs comedy as a defense against genuine horror. The film positions itself as the intersection of comedy and horror, establishing a gothic atmosphere filled with creaking doors, mysterious passageways, thunderstorms, and supernatural occurrences. Yet, each frightening moment is quickly undercut by humor, whether through Wilder's exaggerated reactions, Dom DeLuise in drag as Aunt Kate, or absurdist sight gags. This pattern precisely mirrors psychological defense mechanisms, intercepting threatening content and transforming it into something palatable. The film never permits genuine horror. Instead, it constantly diffuses tension through comedy, creating a safe viewing experience similar to Larry's radio show. Haunted Honeymoon belongs to a tradition of comedy horror films emerging from theatrical traditions, but Wilder references within the film. From Abbott and Costello meeting Universal Monsters to Young Frankenstein, another Wilder project, these films utilize comedy to navigate the darker aspects of the human experience, death, transformation, and the unknown, without being overwhelming. This approach countered the increasingly graphic horror films of the 80s, offering a nostalgic retreat to the safer, more controlled engagements with fear. The film presents a multifaceted examination of comedy as a psychological defense mechanism. Through its structure, the film models this defensive process, using comedy to make frightening aspects of life more manageable. Now, what makes Haunted Honeymoon particularly fascinating is its ambiguous stance towards these defenses. While Larry must overcome his reflexive use of humor to progress emotionally, the film doesn't abandon comedy as its primary mode of expression. This suggests that defensive humor, although it may potentially hinder necessary emotional growth, serves a valuable function in helping us process difficult emotions and experiences. Ultimately, the film suggests that the healthiest approach may not be abandoning defenses entirely. After all, they're there for a reason, but becoming more conscious of how and why we deploy them, using humor not to avoid our fears, but to give us the courage we need to face them. So, if you like lycanthropes, like, share, and subscribe. Contribute your thoughts and additional observations in the comments below. Let me know what I missed or what you noticed. Next, I plan on discussing The Brothers Grimm from 2005. Keep your eye on the moon, a silver bullet in the chamber, and we'll see you back next episode.